Cool.
Welcome to 2021's first fireside, is it?
First fireside, yeah.
Second, I think. I think we did one in the first week of Jan, maybe. You're at the beginning of the quarter.
I love this background of yours, NJ.
Well, yeah, it was the best. We need to do another conference.
Yeah, we do. But anyway, yeah, so we've just finished the first quarter. So we kind of work in quarters a little bit at the company. If you don't know, I'm Richard Craib, the founder of Numerai, and I'm joined by Anson, the CTO.
Hello, everybody.
And hopefully a lot of users are here as well. And basically the point of the fireside is to talk about all kinds of things that you want to talk about, and especially address questions that have come up over the quarter. And often we're not like dealing with things that are coming up on Rocket Chat, because we're dealing with things we set as goals in the beginning of the quarter. And so it's really nice at the beginning of a new quarter to make sure we're all on the same page and stuff. And users ask questions in Slido, which you can see a link to in the Rocket Chat. And we try to get through as many of those questions as possible and kind of take our time about it, because some of these things don't really need just like short blog posts or announcements from us, but more like a discussion. So that's what we're doing here today. Maybe how should we do this, Anson? Do you want to read the Slidos?
Yeah, so I'll read the questions and then we can answer them together. Okay, so Slido question number 1. Wow, 39 votes from Anonymous. All right, Richard, will the new feature set contain the current columns plus new columns so that we will be able to continue using our current models until we decide to retrain?
Yeah, so we are making new data. We've kind of announced this. We're making much more data. And it's our goal to 10x the data that we give out to users, like 10 times more features. And the reason to do that is to make everyone's models better, of course, and make the meta model better. So in the past, we had a bunch of tournaments actually, like the Bernie target, where we had just 40 features. And when we switched from Bernie to Kazutsugi, we added new features. So the question, but we kind of threw out all the old features. We even changed the way we did the obfuscation. So it basically was maybe the biggest breaking change we've ever made. Breaking change meaning it breaks all the existing models that have been built. So with the plan for the new data, don't do that. Don't break anything. Leave the existing data as it is, and just add new data onto it. So my sense is the new data, if you think about like sets, it will be a superset of the old data, but the old data will still exist. So I believe you will want to stop using the old data because the new data is a superset. But you still can use the old data because you might have gained some familiarity with feature intelligence number 12, and you might like it. So we don't want to break your models, but the new data is going to be better and a superset.
Yeah, I also just want to add, I think Richard spoke about, at the model level, whether or not it's backwards compatible, but I think at the API level, we're also trying to make it backwards compatible. So if you're, relying on, the Numerai API download data function, it gives you the zip right now. We're not going to just add, a new and large file in that, which might break, your automation and your existing pipelines. I think the plan right now, as we see it, is we want to start like a new beta data API that just serves this new data, so that you guys can do incremental migrations towards this as well. And so all of this, we have a lot of plans to add more and more data in the future. We're going to slowly migrate to this new data API. So yeah, so it's not going to break your model and it's not going to break your code.
Even more things about it. I think there's it's probably going to be weekly. It's not like we're going to change the target to weekly, but the data will be available weekly. There will be like 3,200 features or something. We're looking at ways to maybe provide. So we've kind of made this data already, but we haven't found a way to necessarily obfuscate it well or compress it well. And so a lot of that work is happening this quarter, but it is our goal to actually have this available to users this quarter. So even though it's like a plan for the year to 10x data, we think we might like hit the goal by the middle of the year. But we're still thinking about it for sure.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
The question actually here, if the thing got a lot of votes, we'll talk about it for a long time, maybe.
Let's do it.
So if there was a guy saying here, hi guys, any targets when this new 10x data will go live? Oh, I thought he was asking. So yeah, it should be end of June. But I thought he was asking if there would be any new targets. And there will be new targets with this data as well, I think. There's some in testing that are looking really nice, better than NOMI. But I also think we might provide a couple of targets. A user told me he actually has a model that's trained on our old targets that he likes and doesn't want to change. So it's possible that this new data system could also present those old targets and NOMI and the new targets. But we'll just make clear, which is the target that we're paying on.
Cool. Next question?
Yeah.
Let's do next question. All right. This one's also from Anonymous. Please address whether Numerai employees being permitted to stake is ethical or not, in relation to previous requiring new employees to stop competing.
Then this is also like 39 votes, right?
Yeah, 38.
So this is a big thing that came up. It's come up many times. And there's so much to say about the history of this, so we can go into detail here. Sorry?
Start from the beginning.
Start from the beginning. Okay, so first of all, we have had, when some employees joined Numerai a long time ago, we were like, well, and they were actually users of Numerai already. We were like, well, everyone's going to hate it if you keep staking because you're working for the company now. So if you want to join the company, you got to stop staking. And spend like no time thinking about this because that seems so obvious to me that any time someone joined, they wouldn't be allowed to also stake. So we did this with Kino and even Mike P, I think. Mike P, when he joined, he sort of stopped staking. But then we had this guy, Michael Oliver, join. And then we were like, damn, he was a big part of the meta model. If he stops staking, the meta model is going to do worse. And we have, kind of a big fiduciary duty to make the hedge fund go up and not do things that hurt the meta model. So we're like, well, either we use we do like the fake version of Numerai, which is actually a lot of Numerai is powered by internal models and just a little bit is powered by user models. We could do that. Or we could find a way for him to keep staking. And I didn't really see a way, but then there was this idea. What if he identified those models, had a little flag that said they're Numerai models? Oh, okay. Now at least users would know it's a Numerai model. What if he also provided code about his models, describing how they're made, which would help other users be just as good as him if they wanted to be. And because of staking 2.0, and we were way below the cap at this time, it wouldn't even hurt other users' earnings. It would impact MMC a little bit, but that wouldn't be such a big deal. So that was a feeling of like, well, this is, on the one hand, we can make this new employee unstake, stop using the website, sell all his NMR on the market, or we could, and make the meta model worse, or we could keep the meta model good and make it better because he's sharing all the code with everybody. And that just seemed like a much better option at that time. So we were like, well, let's kind of allow employees to stake. I don't think, and so we were like, yeah, it's okay if employees stake under those guidelines. So yeah, whenever confronted with things that are like gonna hurt Numerai, unstaking and selling Numerai, and gonna hurt the fund, I don't want to do those things ever. So that was the thinking. So those are sort of the first that's kind of the beginning of the story. Everything was good under this situation until it starts hurting users, right? So once we got to the staking cap, it's like, okay, well, the minute we get to the staking cap, what are we going to do? Because now the employee stake is going to hurt the users because they're taking earnings that would have otherwise gone to the other users. So that was a problem. And so we started talking about this in Rocket Chat. And then Anson said something like, well, we'll just exclude employee stakes. Problem solved. Kind of. Some people also just still didn't like the idea that like there's someone at the company who has access to special data, who's the guy creating the targets. But, if he's excluded from all this, it may be still okay. But then I told Anson, make the staking cap $250,000 NMR. And I found an email about this from December 20th, 2020. And then Anson made it 300,000. And I was like, why 300? He's like, well, if we make it 300, it's much easier because it makes it so we don't have to exclude employee stakes. And it's annoying having weird logic, like exclude this model, but don't exclude this one. And you go to the website and you're like, wait, I can count on the leaderboard. There's more NMR than the staking cap, but it's not quite making sense to me because, it's like, and then you have to read in the fine print, it's because we exclude the following models, whatever. So it just seemed like annoying. So Anson was like, well, let's just make the staking cap higher. And then everything's fine. So in effect, there was no impact there's never been an impact, I don't think, to the users of employee staking because we would have chosen a lower cap if we were to exclude employee stakes. So instead we made a higher cap and then we include employee stakes. And the higher cap is much higher than the employee's total stake amount. Okay. But then we made a blog post about this that didn't really describe these inner workings. We're also not like together. Like I was in South Africa, like with COVID during this time. And Anson is in a different place and Anson hasn't seen like Patrick in a year. And Patrick was the one who wrote this blog post saying that, we've made the following changes to payouts, and it didn't acknowledge the kind of employee staking issue. But anyway, I do like having a casual company where we can say things and write blog posts quickly rather than just say nothing and then everything we say has perfect communication. It's a toss-up. So, Anson, you want to say anything more at this point about the description of the problem?
Yeah. I think, I mean, I think you put it very well. I think you captured kind of like our thinking throughout the time. Yeah, maybe I can just add, it's like these decisions, when we made them back then, like, I don't know, maybe the answer wasn't super clear and obvious, right? We had a lot of other priorities that we were trying to juggle at the same time. And we're trying to make these like design and system decisions at the same time. Yeah, I think on Rocket Chat, I always hear people say, "Oh, it's so easy. Just exclude it this way, or just do the math that way." But I don't know. I think to me, as like the maintainer of the code and working with engineers who have to maintain it, like what Richard said about like having special code, like if this special case, then do this, and then if that special case, then this metric needs to be minus X. Like that type of code is, if you have enough of those, it just drags your development velocity down. So like for me, I'm always pushing for like, how can we just focus on building more features for the users and not have to have all these like special cases in our code. So yeah, I think like in terms of our priorities, we're definitely oriented towards like, let's move fast and let's just ship things, as opposed to let's sit down and design this thing for like a year, and then have super polished policies and like documentation around it. Like I don't think we're there yet. We definitely want to get there, but yeah, I think right now we still need to orient ourselves around, let's just make quick decisions that are good, that most people are happy with, and let's just ship things and focus on stuff like new data, which I think is more valuable than to everyone, instead of us kind of spending a lot of time debating these types of issues.
Okay, so but I also want to say we never had like a rule with that employees are allowed to stake forever under any circumstances.
Right.
It was always like, if it's going to help the company, right, you can do it. But things have changed. So one thing that's changed, this employee, Michael Oliver's stake amount as a percentage, I think, is quite a lot lower than it used to be. So he's got less meta model control. And he's also, one of his big models, unstaked meta model contribution. So maybe he doesn't think he has as much meta model contribution as he used to, because they had like 3 times as many users as a year ago or whatever, plus way more stakes, plus everybody learned from his blog posts and making his code available. So because of that, when we look at it now, it's like, if this model weren't in the meta model, how bad would it be? Not that bad. Pretty much the same. So it's not like a business priority for us to keep this in the meta model anymore. The other thing is, since then, Numerai has been listed on Coinbase and Binance and has like 1,000 times or 10,000 times more volume than it used to. So even if he were to sell some of his NMR, would that hurt NMR as much as it used to? No. So things have changed quite a bit since we made the policy. So I kind of feel like we should stop employee staking. Because it's just annoying talking about it, and it's not like an important issue. It is a distraction, I think, to keep talking about it. And and you might think also like one other thing is like, you can think about analogies, right? And analogies are a very, very, very bad way to reason about things, but they are a good way to be persuasive. So you could say, let's say there was a raffle in Disney had a raffle, and then the daughter of the CEO of Disney won the raffle and won a free trip to Disneyland. This just sucks. That's like not why they did the raffle. She doesn't need to win, and she's like a related party. And there actually are some rules about this for competitions of that kind. But here's another analogy. Is Mark Zuckerberg allowed to have a Facebook profile? Is an employee who joins Facebook, do they have to quit Facebook? Can Vitalik Buterin stake in proof of stake? Why not? Because either it's a good system and the staking helps the system, or it's not a good system and they need to redesign proof of stake until they are okay. But yeah, at places like Ethereum Foundation consensus, you can use Ethereum. And by the way, when you do stake, you're taking some of the yield from other stakers. That's how it works. And I don't see that as so bad. But again, this is an analogy. You can pick apart whether the analogy is reasonable. Maybe you like the Disney analogy more than the Vitalik analogy. But I don't think this is like a cut and dry thing. Another thing is we have huge investors with huge NMR positions. Placeholder, Paradigm, Pantera, the P's of crypto. Some of the P's, they're all P's. They have tons of NMR. What if they come in and stake example predictions? They'll take the entire cap immediately. The amount of NMR staked would be 3 million from 300,000. And then the payouts are really low for everybody. And Numerai gets kind of nothing because we already had the example predictions. But they make tons of money, tons of yield on their NMR. Do we want that? No. And we've actually asked, and they also know this problem. They've invested in other protocols where they decide, you know what, we're not going to vote in the governance stuff. It's just too political. We're just going to sit out any votes. Even though we have 15% of compound, we don't want to vote in the compound governance. And they also have some other rules about, they don't want to make income and stuff. So there's some tax consequences. But these are interesting questions. And I would be pretty mad if they staked a bunch and then hurt the payouts because it would hurt the company. So those are things, that's always the thing I care about. People also said, why am I staking my NMR? And part of me was, I helped make the KRAT model. I didn't do any code, but I helped some ideas of the KRAT model that Mike Oliver made that I really liked. It's a very low risk kind of model. And it was tempting. I was like, maybe I should stake. If I'm an employee, maybe I should stake alongside him. But I ended up not doing it because I am scared of using the blockchain because I might lose everything. The phishing attack. So I didn't do that. Haven't ever done that. So the policy we're thinking of doing is like, actually all employees are unstaking now. One of the policies we're thinking of doing is, it is kind of nice for us to have these models in the metamodel. And we do like using the stake weighted metamodel. So it's like, that's one thing. But we also like integration test. We do stake. We have integration tests. It's made from like the example predictions, and it's staked with like, at the moment, it's 50 NMR. It's quite a lot, but we test stuff with it, right? So what my feeling is, I still want all of MDO's models to be submitted, but the stake on them will just be like 1 NMR, and it'll be the Numerai, the company's NMR. So it'll just be coming from the Numerai wallet. So employees won't have any stakes. And if you see a stake on an employee account, it's Numerai's money.
Someone said the new minimum is 3 NMR.
Okay. No special treatment. The new minimum is 3. That's true. Damn it. I hate that.
It'll be the minimum.
Okay. Numerai will have to cough up 3 NMR. Take a model. We want to do the same thing on signals. We can sometimes find very, very good signals on brand new data that we haven't yet got into the data API or haven't yet released. So we want to like be able to add those into our system. The way we do our hedge fund is through the API. So if Mike P finds a cool signal that works on Signals, we definitely want him to put it into the Signals website. Otherwise, we can't trade it. It's just how like we do things. So I want him to keep doing that, but again, we'll just make those small stakes, like 1 NMR. 3. Okay.
For the record, I'm 100% on the Ethereum 2.0 staking analogy. I think that's definitely the future that we have to build towards, right? Like, in the future, Numerai will not be making these types of decisions. All these decisions, I feel like, somewhat distort the pureness, the purity of the metamodel, which I feel like long term isn't great for performance, but like maybe in the short term, it's necessary for us to like build a cohesive community. But like I think in the future, when everything's on the blockchain and the decisions are made by AIs voting with their NMR, maybe they won't care. They're like, no, we definitely want this model, and all the models will be anonymous, and like it'll be unstoppable. We cannot stop anyone from plugging in their model to fully decentralize Numerai. So yeah, I'm definitely building towards the ETH 2.0 vision. But right now we'll make some rules to keep the community cohesive, I think. Close coming soon, yes.
I think it's also more like, that we're not at the, our master plan, monopolize intelligence, monopolize data, monopolize money, decentralize the monopoly. We're not even kind of close to number 4. And there's some ideas there, but we're not close to that yet. So, but maybe once that happens, and it's like, because one thing we could do is we say there's going to be a new thing called the Numerai Foundation, and I am not involved in it, and no one in the company is involved in it. But it's the party that creates the scores. It creates the targets. Or something like that. And then we don't have any oversight onto the scoring. It's like an oracle. So there's that kind of thing you could do to separate these powers, to make it more like, oh, okay, I don't mind that because that's a separate party. But anyway, we will see deep into the future about that 3 or 4 years from now.
There's definitely a lot of technical challenges. I think in the Zoom chat, we're kind of also talking about this, like how can the scores be transparent for that ETH2 future? Like how can we score people kind of out in the open, like the ways that oracles report information in the open? Yeah, I think there's a lot of research to be done there. But I don't know. I'm hopeful. There's a lot of companies out there, tackling this type of like decentralized data. How do you bring compute to data? How do you like shard it on the blockchain in such a way that like no single party has the full information? I'm hopeful in this research. I think we can do it eventually. Definitely not today, not this quarter, but I think eventually we'll get there.
Chainlink.
Maybe Chainlink. I'm not a fan. I'm not a huge fan of Chainlink, but maybe Chainlink will save us. Okay. Did we dwell enough?
Well, the one thing we could do, because we wanted the stake cap to be 250K, and we made it 300K. It'd be nice. We could bring it back down to 250K after this change. Who likes that idea? Arbitrage is doing this. Here's the thing. There's a lot going on with the data research, right? So what could happen is, let's say the average model at the moment has a 0.03 correlation. It's probably lower, but let's just say the average model has a 0.03 correlation. Under the new data, the average model and the new targets, the average model might have a 0.04 correlation, which means all payouts on core will be way higher. And therefore we have to do something to make the payouts more like they used to be. So we could make the cap lower, or we could make core payouts lower and make MMC payouts higher, or we could do a variety of complicated other things, like a completely new way of scoring the tournament that doesn't even use correlation. We don't know the answer to that yet. But what I feel right now, and what everybody should feel, is that we have had enough time with Kazutsugi and Nomi to know that these are actually quite good targets. We didn't know this a year ago because we never tried them live. But these are quite good targets. And the data is working on these targets. And core is quite easy. And integration test is making a few 100% a year on their stake, while the token is going up 20x as well. So it's crazy stuff that's happening. It's gotta be hard, the tournament. And one nice thing about making it hard is some of these attacks go away. Like if we're worried about, well, Paradigm could just use integration test and make a ton of money. Well, maybe we should pay on whether you're beating integration tests, because then they wouldn't do that stake and they wouldn't even want to. So here's what I think is true, and I think you already know this. Payouts on Numerai are going to go down a lot, or integration test type models, because we already have that model that's worth nothing to us. So that's something we have to find a way to make better. It should be the hardest data science tournament, right? If it's not hard, if it's too easy, it's because we're kind of giving away too much. And we need, for the same reason, we need Numerai signals payouts to be better. And that somehow we need to make that tournament easier, because those models are really helping and are very orthogonal to integration tests. So these are things on our minds, and we don't want to, I think it's worse. So first of all, you also kind of shouldn't want too many payouts, because if there were too many payouts, NMR would be diluted faster than anyone would want to trade it or hold it. Everyone would be like, well, this tournament just pays out like millions and millions per week.
It's like
and they just get sold. And like, this isn't good. So for the long run of everybody, it needs to actually be sensible. Plus, I also always feel this is very important. It has to be like credible to you that your models are helping us. Like if you've made something that's 99.99% correlated with integration tests, you can't be helping us that much. And your signal is influencing the metamodel, but it isn't helping the metamodel that much. It's pretty much close to the metamodel, something like that. So these are the things we need to like figure out.
Yeah.
So that the tournament gets as hard as it should be, which is, can you provide something that's better than the meta model or orthogonal to it and better?
Yeah, I think in order for the stake weighted meta model to work, and in order for kind of like the collective intelligence of Numerai to live within NMR, like the scoring system and the payout system needs to be very discerning between models that help and models that don't help. Like one thing I really don't want to happen is, a really good engineer or data scientist with really great ideas are encouraged not to pursue those ideas because it's maybe more profitable as a staking strategy to just stake on example predictions. Like that is a bad incentive, I feel. And so the game should feel like, if you work hard and you come up with good ideas and you're good, then you will get paid more than everyone else. Like I think that incentive needs to be held. And like as we learn about things like, this new data is gonna do this, or we now have this new idea about how to do scoring, we'll continue updating the payout system to reflect that reality of whoever's helping will get more. So I think like, yeah, that's the principle that we're building towards.
Someone is saying FNC, anyone? Which I do rather like. I do think the high FNC models are a big factor in whether the model helps the meta model. So that's a kind of idea. But there are quite a few complicated things about it. And I'm not sure if it's the perfect thing.
Also, our leaderboard is already too wide. We need to make it wider before we can have more scores on the leaderboard.
Arbitrage is saying, why don't you just stop including example predictions? That is kind of interesting. I mean, it's sort of like, if you're really bad at data science and you can't even run the example script to generate those predictions yourself, then do we really want you staking? In the past, probably yes. We wanted the user growth. We wanted you to maybe start like that and then learn data science, but maybe now not so much.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we do want to have lots of resources to help new people get started.
Yeah.
Leaderboard bonus.
Maybe leaderboard bonus for signals. I don't know. Not a promise. Okay, so we just wrapped up question 2. Shall we move on to question 3?
Okay.
Okay. Also from Anonymous, more unstakeable model slots. We need to keep innovating and creating new models. I used up my 15 models and all I'm doing now is watching the live performance. Should I take this one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so yes, we definitely want more model slots. I'm personally trying to get it up to 100. And I feel like it should be infinite. But here are some practical engineering challenges. The first thing is gas. So as y'all know, ETH is all-time high. Gas fees, which is a function of how congested Ethereum is, also all-time highs. And the number of transactions that we're doing because of growth is also all-time highs because we do separate transactions per model. So the main reason that's holding us back from letting you guys have infinite models right now is that we're gonna, we need a way to rein in our gas costs first. So there's a lot of people on Rocket Chat who say, oh, okay, so why don't you just make them unstakeable? But I think this is like another one of those like technical debt things, right? Like, sure, we can make a unstakeable model, and then there's now exceptions to our code about like how do we count like the total models and how do we make sure that like you can't stake on it, and like, oh, what if I use the contract on chain like itself and etc. So I'd rather not spend time designing this like halfway solution and just tackle the underlying gas issues directly first. Once we get it to a place where we can keep our gas costs reasonable while letting you guys have 100 models, I think that's like the long-term solution that I want. So more unstakeable model slots, probably not. More slots, probably yes. Is what we're working towards right now.
And I think this comes up in the questions, but one of the things is stake management people talk about. Ways to manage your stake, ways to change your stake, ways to withdraw some of your winnings, all these things. You can see now like why we kind of didn't do so many of those things so right away. It's really the gas thing is very, very bad.
Yeah.
And it makes it, like we don't want you to make more alterations to your stake, frankly, because it costs us gas.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Yeah. It's important to increase the model limit with new data release. Yeah, I completely agree. That's why like we're trying to time it so that we can, well, at least I'm trying to, no promises, trying to reduce gas, our gas bill scale per model by the time we release the new data, so that you guys don't have to like delete your old models to play with the new data. I think that's reasonable, but it's going to take a lot of hard work. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. In the idea of keeping the collective intelligence of Numerai within the staking system, you need to be able to move the stakes around as fast as you can. Okay, can the name of model please renamed? No promises of any promises at first. Model renaming, yeah, I mean, it's on the list, but also that one is kind of aesthetic only, and it doesn't add too much value to the meta model, so it's lower priority. Okay, moving on, next question. Let's try to get through some of these. All right, Anonymous. DataCrunch has taken the Numerai route of conducting similar tournaments. How do you see competition in this space evolving?
I mean, I don't know why they would, why would you, if you started a thing that your goal is to solve a problem in the world, start a company. If you're starting a good company or a big company that could have big impact, and it's if you're just copying something someone else has done, it's what problem are you solving? And especially if you're copying it worse than they are. So I haven't really looked into them. But what's the question?
How do you see competition in this space evolving?
Well, there are things that are interesting. I mean, there was a Two Sigma Kaggle competition. There's also one right now, the Jane Street competition. And I think those are what I like. The Jane Street one, it does seem a little bit different to Numerai. They definitely copying some ideas, like the data's obfuscated and stuff like that, which seems fine. But they actually, hopefully getting more people interested in modeling this type of data and learning about it. But they're never going to quite work without staking at all.
Yeah.
Knowing from experience, I know, for example, some people playing the competition on Jane Street, and the best thing to do is make a high vol model.
Yep.
And make a couple of high vol models, and that's what used to be, the incentive of Numerai 5 years ago. So you need staking, and then you need a real hedge fund. I don't think that anything on these other tournaments is powering a real hedge fund. They would say that they have a hedge fund if they had a hedge fund.
The community is the real strength of Numerai against copycats. 100%. 100%.
Yeah.
They haven't put in the work, the time, the blood and sweat to go through all these problems like staking and high volatility attacks, and yeah, I think they have a long way to go. But I don't know. I like competition. Keeps things interesting. It shows who's it shows who's actually going to win and who's not going to win, and I'm going to enjoy beating them.
Do you remember that one Cerebrum? Did we talk about this? Do you guys? Yeah. Does anyone remember that? I think it was called Cerebrum, something like that. It was 2017 copy of Numerai. And they were going to do an ICO and all kinds of things, and it was just college kids that were still in college, and just copying all the text from the website and stuff. It was pretty bad. But one of the things I've often said is I don't think a Two Sigma would copy us, because we have patents filed. And so for them, they're do we really want to deal with these patents? Do we want to have the reputation of just copying another fund? No, Two Sigma has a great reputation of being a technology company. So if they go and copy us, that's really bad. So it's quite a lot of reputation risk for a big firm to do it. And then for a small firm to do it, it's a very difficult type of business. And actually setting up the hedge fund and things like that would be very hard. So yeah, I'm more scared of the Two Sigma people, but I don't think they'll do it because of the patents and the reputation risk. And then I'm less scared of the small players because even if they break all the patents, because they don't mind, they won't overcome the operational and kind of technical hurdles of actually doing it all live.
What about like the DeFi, decentralized hedge funds, like, DHedge, or, all these things that, only trade crypto? It allows you to build portfolios, and then, they're trying to crowdsource it and on-chain trade it together, that type of stuff. Competition from the DeFi space, maybe, in general?
I don't know. Yeah, if they're trading crypto, it's different. And I think they're not like scientific, these things. And I think we're like trying to be more scientific and mathematical about what we're doing, so that when it works really well, it's very durable and defensible.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Will the feature set expansion include novel data sources, or will the new features all be transformations of the existing data?
Good question. Some are transformations of the existing data. Quite a lot of them are, but some are completely new data sources. And then some are completely new types of transformations. So there's a bit of both, but I would say that this first release is more about transformations on the existing data, but some very key new data. And the next releases that will just add on to this data will be completely new sources of data.
Cool. Anson, bro, when stake management? Well, the official answer is soon. But the the guidance I want to give is we're literally working on it right now. So as you may have noticed, I dropped a little question on general on Rocket Chat, just asking you guys like what stake management features you want. I've taken those feedback. I have found the intersection, or we're trying to find the intersection of those ideas with what we can do given the gas situation and what we can ship this quarter. So trying to find something that can satisfy all these three things, and hopefully we can give you something good. Hopefully, we're trying. Okay, JRB, when Val 4? Val 4?
So that comes out with the new data. And there will never be a Val 5 kind of. Val 4 will just keep getting bigger.
Yeah. Does Numerai want to maximize the metamodel's correlation or the metamodel's feature neutral correlation? Should MMC be based on FNC rather than CORR?
Okay, so here's what we want to maximize. There's a signal that is the stake-weighted metamodel, but then there's this thing we do called optimization, which turns the signal into a portfolio. The signal is like 5,500 stocks, and the portfolio is like 500 stocks. So the thing I am curious about, is we're doing this, turning the signal into a portfolio step. Could we make that part of what you're doing? So you're learning how to build portfolios, not just how to pick stocks from or make signals on stocks. So this is a big question, and it's quite difficult to come up with a way of doing this. But you might say one of the things we're thinking about doing for signals is giving you your TB, what we call TB 200 scores. It's kind of your maybe when we release it, we call it portfolio 200 scores. What does that do? You have in your signal, you have high conviction things, right? High probability things, or high projected return things that are close to 1. And then you have low ones that are close to 0. It will take your top 100 long ideas, right? And your bottom 100, we call that your shorts. and we say, how well is your top bottom 200 portfolio doing? Taking the top as the longs, the bottom as the shorts, how well is that portfolio doing? If you look at the correlation on that, you will, like the integration test frequently gets like 0.06, 0.07. That's like the normal number to get. Sometimes a bit much higher, because those are your high conviction things. Of course, they're going to have higher correlation with the target. They're your extreme predictions. So the question is, maybe we should pay on that. Maybe we should pay on how good are your extreme predictions, because your extreme predictions are the things that are having the biggest impact when we add you to the metamodel. Plus, it gives you the opportunity to think about building a portfolio, which you could do with your own optimization system. So that's basically the real game of this, right? One of my this guy I met, a Harvard professor, he said, signal creation is for amateurs, portfolio construction is for pros. And in some ways, by doing things like feature neutralizing your signal, you're making your signal a bit like a portfolio. You're saying, I don't want that much risk. And so you're kind of treating the problem like a portfolio. But really, what we want to do is pass from a signal to a small subset of stocks, which is your portfolio. The problem is, this adds a bunch of other annoying things, like suddenly we have to worry about churn. How much did your portfolio change from week to week? Did it change too much for us to benefit? This kind of thing comes up. So we're a bit confused about whether this is good or bad. We've been thinking about it for years. But I think for signals, we want to try it and allow you to stake only your top 200 and bottom 200 predictions. Why is this particularly good for signals? Because some people don't have signals on the whole universe anyway. They'll only have predictions on the S&P 500. So let's only score them on that. There's no filling zeros as 0.5s or filling NAs as 0.5s. You can just get scored on the little bit of the universe that you've predicted on, as long as it's about 400 stocks. So that's another angle, and that seems to improve signals payouts. It also makes them a bit more volatile, but maybe it's quite a good thing to do. So I hope that made sense. If you've worked building signals a lot, thinking about building portfolios is quite a leap, but it is the real game. And I think if we don't let you do that, then our own portfolio optimizer is doing a lot of the lifting. And in actual fact, if you took the integration test with our portfolio optimizer, that does really quite well. Because any of the problems of integration tests, it's got too much feature exposure, blah, 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 are fixed by the optimizer. So it's still much better for us, not much, but a lot better for us to use the stake-weighted meta model with the same optimizer that beats the integration test. But the optimizer is doing a lot of the work. So this is the interesting problem we have. And I think if we allowed users to do something where they could build portfolios, it would be quite a game changer. And you would have people, you'd be like, wait a second, how did that person do so well in this era when everyone else burned? And it's like, it might be that they just had a better optimizer portfolio construction idea, where they were very neutral to features or something like that. And so there's a lot of new ways to be creative if you play the portfolio game. So I think we might have to go there.
And it's going to be huge.
Okay. I love it. Working at a portfolio level is a lot of fun. Bigger Han.
Yeah. I think it's going to open up a lot of possibilities it's going to be a much more involved tournament with a lot more stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, like just like how we gave out FNC scores on Numerai, maybe, but we didn't like say we're going to pay on them. Maybe we should give out PB 200 scores on Numerai.
Yeah.
And backfill them and be like, what do you guys think of this? Would you want to stake on this instead? And I think some good users, especially good users, would be like, yeah, this is much better. This is what I want to stake on. I don't want to stake on these middling predictions that don't matter. I want to stake my, yeah.
Cool. Next question, also related. MMC for consistent models is not productive because MMC is regime dependent. Is there a plan to look beyond MMC for incentivizing stable models? Do we want consistent and stable models?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, what's happened recently is kind of the new guard in some way. The new people high on the leaderboard are very feature exposed. You can tell this yourself by looking at their FNC. Could be very low, but they are on top of the leaderboard. So it is like this whole idea. You could be doing things like feature timing very well, which is, I don't understand deeply, but I imagine there are ways to do it. But yeah, it's but it's strange because it's hurt people that were otherwise making good MMC in a time like this where features do so well. You're paying the cost, and so if you let's say you have the following kind of model, you knew it would have good MMC. 8 out of 10, 8 out of 6 out of 10 times, 6 out of 10 eras. Would you sorry, Liam's walking around my house here. If you knew you had a model that was good at MMC 6 out of 10 eras, would that be something you would want to stake? Especially if, which is likely, it would be 6 in a row where it did or didn't work. And so that would be, inconsistent type of model. And it'll be, I find that annoying that we would be asking people to build models like that. I think a lot of this goes away on the portfolios though, because you could start talking about your portfolio MMC, which could always be good, potentially. But we just don't know enough. And the reason it's hard to say much is because we haven't looked at it under the new data. And I think the new data is going to allow many new things to happen that weren't happening. When I looked at MMC recently, it looks like the average MMC staker isn't good at predicting their own MMC. So that sucks, right? Because you don't want to have people should be able to make an assessment internally. Okay, this is going to have MMC and then be right about it. But if they're staking MMC and then they end up not having it. In fact, I think the very first example of MMC we gave in the forum post was NASDAQ Jockey. He had so much MMC over those 20 weeks that we used him as an example. And then his MMC went away completely. So if he was staking on MMC, probably hurt him. And I actually think anyone on the top of the leaderboard who stakes MMC is, playing with fire.
What do you think about the idea of MMC being relative against integration test? Example predictions.
Yeah, I do kind of like it. But I also think maybe that's almost that should be the new core. The new way to earn core is what is your core minus the integration test core.
Cool. Neutralize. Yeah, neutralize, not minus, I guess. But anyways. All right. Next, another one from Anonymous. Badges, etc. earned on Kaggle are a good show-off externally. Can that ecosystem where participants can promote themselves be replicated by Numerai? Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's one thing that I think makes Numerai better than Kaggle, which is you're earning real money. Kaggle is just stickers and badges, and Numerai is like, well, I made $1 million, better than your sticker. But no, definitely, we love badges. We just launched medals. Great job, team. I think the medals are super cool. They're kind of like, it's our first step into, I guess you could say, gamifying it, minting more of this social currency so that you can use it to show off externally. I think, yeah, we're working towards that. Yeah, that's all I got. Richard, do you have anything else here?
No, but I do. Yeah, we do want it to be, I think, for certain types of problems, and it'll be, I think anyone really knowledgeable will know it's harder to do well on Numerai than
Yeah.
to do well in a Kaggle stock market competition.
Yeah. We do want like all of our profiles and the leaderboard to properly show off like how good you actually are. I actually think, in the past, some of the profile pages kind of hides it. Like if you look at the number one person on the leaderboard, it's like, and you look at that graph, you're like, I don't even know if that's good or bad. It's just the line. And so, yeah, our thinking is bigger numbers, easier to read off, lines that go up to the right, and yeah, badges and medals where you deserve it when you've done something special. Okay, Kino. In terms of opening the fund to institutional and outside investors, what is the current timeline and what needs to happen on Numerai's end?
Yeah, I mean, we feel like quite good about things at the moment, and feel ready to take outside capital, especially if it's the right kind of people, not people, institutions, where they have long investment horizons, they understand market neutral strategies, and they believe in, that there's a new future for machine learning to really dominate. And so, yeah, we are definitely looking at new LPs for the fund.
Cool. Rapin Lager, or EIK. Due to exceptional growth of stake amount, would it be a good idea to split the payout cap, one for core and one for MMC? Yeah, so when I originally worked on the proposal for the new system with the payout factor, with the whole curve, one idea that actually Mike P proposed was, why don't we call this staking pools, right? So if you guys have worked with any of the DeFi protocols like Uniswap, Compound, Aave, like you just have these like pools of liquidity, and that there are essentially like your APY gets calculated on chain from just looking at how much of each of these tokens are locked up in the pool, right? So we actually thought that analogy was quite good. But I think the difference here is that in Numerai, when you're staking on core or MMC, it's not that like you have NMR in core that is mutually exclusive to NMR that is in MMC. So I think, to me, that analogy breaks down a little bit. So the mechanics of it also break down a little bit. So we kind of went with the solution that I think is the easiest for everyone to track, which is, let's just have a single global payout curve that just governs, that per tournament. I think that's like a little bit easier for accounting. But I think, yeah, in the future, when we have like multiple scores, maybe like one for TB200, maybe one for core, one for MMC, one for your core, example predictions minus your core, one for portfolios. When we have like a lot of these different things that we're measuring you on, I think, yeah, we're definitely going to move towards having a more fine-grained way of tuning payouts, which is going to be per score tuning. So I think I want to move towards there, but right now, given that we only have a couple scores, I don't think we need to add that complexity yet. But yeah, I think it's a good idea. Okay, Anonymous. When next NumeraiCon?
Soon. This year, I think we should do it.
Yeah, hoping to do it this year.
Been too long.
It's going to be huge. All right, WZ. When will the new 3100 features version be launched? What's the rationale and potential impact over current approach? I think we mostly answered that.
Yeah.
Okay, Anonymous. Do you plan to publish the metamodel live performance just like every other model?
Yeah, we sort of thought about that. We ended up not doing it because we were kind of changing the definition of the metamodel a lot until we kind of started to like stake weighted a lot. So I don't think we will put it in the make it a user.
Yeah. It's common for projects.
Actually, should we have a quick break? Just to look at something else.
Sure.
Okay. Change of pace. Check this out, guys. What can you see? Can you see my desktop?
Yeah.
I see the screenshot.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what is this? I showed you guys this before. There was an amazing ascent of the correlation chart of the stake weighted meta model. And that ascent reached its zenith at the beginning of this year. And this is correlation chart. So it's sort of, the number we show on the website. It's not the sharp of the back test or anything like that. But suddenly, it started coming down. So people said, it's almost like the beginning of 2021 was like peak feature neutralization or something like that. And then all these stakers that were staking features started staking like 2 times MMC and basically hurting the sharp of the stake weighted meta model. So that's quite strange to me. Obviously, we were hoping this number would just keep going up. But I think it's a function of what's happened with some of these users staking features. And it's interesting. I mean, they've been right. So in live, they've been right? Like they've helped us live in some way. But they've been reducing the correlation chart. And yeah, almost like, yeah, good models weren't earning as much. But obviously this isn't the whole story. In fact, if you look at the correlation, not the sharp, but the correlation's been fine. The correlation's still about all-time high. And because we use this optimizer, the optimizer applied to this stake-weighted signal is as good as ever, or almost at all-time highs. So this is an interesting phenomenon, but it's not hurting the actual meta model and trading. It's helping, but I feel like this should kind of be going up. Again, this is correlation chart, so it's not even fair to say too much about it, but I thought I'd show you an update of this since I showed it in previous meetings. Fireside. Anyway, end of break.
Oh.
Am I still sharing? All good?
Oh, okay, cool. No, you're not sharing anymore. All right. So let's see where we are. Okay, anonymous. It's common for projects to publish their roadmaps. Can we expect a quarterly roadmap to keep track of developments?
Probably not like a written one, but we can tell you what we're working on. Should we tell them the Q2 plans?
Let's tell them the Q2 plans. So I kind of write like an internal quarterly roadmap for the company, summarizing what everyone's working on, summarizing our thinking. Which ones should we talk about? Let's see, I'll go over the high level maybe. Okay, so the biggest thing, the most urgent one that people are working on right now is gas. So we're paying 20,000, 30,000 per week in gas right now. And that's just burning money, right? That's just money that we could be spend buying new data, hiring new people, giving you guys in payouts that we're just giving to Ethereum miners. We love the Ethereum ecosystem and we're very happy to be a part of it, and we're thankful for them for running our code, but I think this might be a little bit too much. So anyways, we're trying to find a way to, yeah, I mean, as you also noticed that we raised the stake minimums to 3 NMR, which is not great. We want to find a longer term solution here that both, so that we can lower the stake minimums again back to something more reasonable, and then that we could let you guys have more slots. So what is that solution? TBD, but that's what we're working on right now. Another big thing that Richard sort of touched upon is payouts, right? We need to set payouts so that we reward people for how much they're helping the fund. Right now, Signals is helping the fund more than people are getting paid. So how do we raise the Signals payouts? Tournament core example predictions submitters who are staking a lot are helping much less. So how do we reduce that? And how do we align those incentives again? That's going to be a huge project too. Obviously, new data, as we touched upon, that's going to be huge, aiming for end of quarter. Right now, we're doing our internal verifications and just productionizing the data pipeline. Those are the high level things. Richard, do you have, what else you got?
No, that's right.
Yeah. So those are the high level things. Those are what we're thinking about. I mean, maybe one more, which is like staking UX and stake management. I think, as you know, like parts of our website have just been magically getting better and looking better and more delightful and joyful. And this is a lot of this is like Jonathan and Chris just spending a lot of time poring over the UX flows of the core parts of the system. This quarter, we're focused on staking. So how do we bring joy? How do we make it thrilling? How do we make it feel safe? How do we make it feel like you're not doing accounting or thinking about taxes, but you're just, having fun and actually, playing the game of Numerai when you're staking? That's what we're going to go for. Okay. That's the roadmap. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay. Are more tournaments coming?
I don't think so.
Okay, not soon. What changes to signals are planned and when? I think we sort of answered that.
Biggest thing is payouts. Yeah, that's it. We got to get that right.
When payouts for signal? Maybe an airdrop? No airdrops. No more airdrops.
Yeah, it's bad to do something retroactive. Part of me is like, I want to pay the signals users like double if they've earned anything or something like that. But it's the point is that it's going to get much better, and anyone who has a signals model should and will do really well. Like we want them to do this, like this period of leaderboard bonus, 2 times MMC, all this core, all that stuff happened on Numerai. That is good. Like it was fine to pay so much out, but that has to happen before signals soon. Like a renaissance of payouts.
When meme review on Fireside Chat with Richard? Richard, what is your meme of the quarter? Vote.
I don't have a good memory.
My favorite is the compute tutorial meme. Have you guys seen the compute
Oh
tutorial?
yeah, that video.
I'm just dropping this link here, everyone.
Oh, for sure that wins.
Watch it. It is the best tutorial for compute ever. That's my meme of the quarter. Okay. Durgahan. Pick a time for scores that you can deliver on time every time, say 6 p.m. PST. Why create a morning expectation that you will fall short of every day? Okay. First of all, I'm not sure if we ever made a promise about what time daily scores will come out. I think, so this is what happened, right? It used to be much later. And then Mike P made some genius optimizations to make it much earlier. And then everyone just started assuming that it's going to be much earlier all the time. But I think the reality is that like our data providers aren't always on time. And so when they're not on time, there's no way we can give you those scores on time. That being said, I do understand, there are now a lot more, things that are built on top of the daily scores that we give out, like daily scores in Chill and, the Payouts app. And so like we should, have respect for these things too. So yeah, I think just delaying everything so that they can be more consistent is a good idea. So we might do that this quarter. It's not a super high priority, obviously, because it's, data, payouts, gas, those are our priorities, but I think it's a good idea. Okay, Joaquin, when state-weighted metamodel on leaderboard to benchmark against? Not soon. Okay, JRB, when SPAC? No SPAC.
I like the idea of being public for some reason at some point, because I think it'd be cool to have our users own shares in Numerai, as well as staking with NMR and things like that. So I think it's quite cool, but it's not good timing because we're kind of busy. We're busy with LP fundraising and things like that.
Yeah. Okay, Anonymous. Is there a possibility in future to stake stable coins and get returns in those stable coins instead of NMR? So that will take care of currency volatility. What's the catch? Will we ever let people stake stable coins?
Well, we have NMR. So unless we sold all of our NMR, all of the 5 million NMR in our treasury to buy DAI, it wouldn't really be good for us to pay anything except the currency we already have. So I think we are going to keep staking in NMR. And then let the DeFi market develop and allow for people to do different kinds of hedges. One thing you could do is put $100,000 in the future, put $100,000 of USDC or DAI into Compound and lend $50,000 worth of NMR, and then sell that NMR on Uniswap, so that you now have basically a short position in NMR, which would decrease your volatility for the NMR that you are staking, if that makes sense. So there are things like that that are imminent, I think. Probably in the next 6 months or something, you'll be able to do that if you really wanted to hedge your NMR risk, which for some people could be sensible.
I think it's also good to point out that we did try using DAI before, and it didn't work out very well because we didn't create it and design it, and we launched Erasure Bay with it, and it was an absolute mess. So I think it's quite nice continuing to use technologies that we built ourselves.
Was it a mess?
Yeah, I mean, DAI was like, what was happening with DAI at that time? It was like
They had this like huge
Um,
die scare of whether or
Yeah.
not it's gonna break the peg. And it was like in the middle of Erasure Bay, and they were like, "Oh God, is Maker gonna just completely fail?" Yeah, I
Make
think a
it like
lot of. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say make us like take a loan or something like that to like make it right. It was
Yeah, Maker DAO was having problems. But yeah, I'm somewhat bullish on stablecoins. I feel like they would stabilize, but right now they're not very stable. If you guys have been following the Fei protocol, uh, which I dropped in the random channel a couple of months ago, they're having a lot of problems. So I think stablecoins are still nascent, got a lot of work to do. NMR, on the other hand, is actively a token that's actively being used. So I'd rather just build on that. Okay. Um, when will models? Sorry, did you say something?
Noah is like saying scores are out.
That's great. Yeah. When will models KRAT and TRIVIAL be open sourced?
I think we've talked about this, yeah, a couple of times. Some people, yeah, think it's extremely important that every single component of the model be open source, including like the pickle file that is identical to the model. So you have to do absolutely no work at all to use that model. But I don't know about that for sure. If we want that,
Right.
like it's better to say, here are the ideas. You can, if you put some effort in, you can build on these ideas yourself. But if you just copy the model or copy the code, I don't know how much you can gain. But we still want to keep sharing things. But I'm not going to like tell Michael Oliver or other people at Numerai that it's like their job to provide lots of code to users. It's actually the opposite. That's your job. That's why we need users is to build models.
If MO is staking it, it should be fully open, but didn't you just ban staking? Yes, exactly. We did, which is why yeah, we're going to focus on open sourcing ideas, open sourcing example code, but not the entire model itself. Because I think that's like, it goes against this idea of like shared learning, I think. Um, when is the ban effective? Uh, this round?
Yeah, no. So I
Yeah.
guess within 5 weeks there won't be any stakes
Yeah.
back from the
Okay. Joaquin, what estimated performance improvement mean core and Numerai short can be expected from the new data? I think you sort of touched upon that already. Let's try to go through other ones. Any chance of signals data API? So a data API that gives you data for signals?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of antithetical to signals. The point is that it's for people who have data. But I do still think, the way we present other things that could improve. So if we have if we have a nicer API for Numerai, I'm sure, for example, like if you wanted to quickly get the latest tickers um, or something like that, you could get that from the new API in a nice way or something like that. But actual data on signals, probably not going to provide. But maybe at some points, at least giving something like, here's the price data. And then we can derive features from that price data instead of the Yahoo Finance data, which is a bit sketchy and unstable sometimes.
Or we can have a data tournament where data providers come in and stake on their data, and you can use that data to create signals. Just putting it out there. Just putting it out there. Okay. We've had multiple model support for almost a year, May 2020. Some bad hombres. Parentheses, subjective, I know. Still have many unlinked account. Is the team okay with that? Okay, so bad hombres uh, recently came into knowledge of a bunch of people having multiple unlinked accounts, and I dropped that one message in Rocket Chat saying, hey, please respect the rules, and a lot of people have come up to me and explained their situation. Some of them I'm like, okay, your situation is fine, like arbitrage, he's like teaching a class or creating a new account just to like show the YouTube video. Other people have like, other situations. Some of them I said, yes, you're fine. Some of them it is not. But yeah, am I okay with that? I think in general, what I want is everyone to respect the rules. And so when you respect the rules, then what's good about that is like, it just creates like a good cohesive community, which is what I'm trying to do. And when there are bottlenecks in the system, like, not having enough slots to do all the things that you want to do, I want to fix it for everyone at the same time. Even if it means that some people, will have to limit what they can do in the short term, I think it's better for like society to improve together, especially in these issues of fairness. So if you're a bad hombre, please talk to me. If you need like special permission to do other things, otherwise please just respect the rules and more slots will come. That's what I think. Not bad hombres, just everyone's just doing their best, I think. Okay, Kino, would it make sense possible to split the token, like stocks, as a way to increase liquidity and onboarding? Or would you rather see NMR in the hundreds? Well, NMR actually has 18 decimal points, so like on chain, I guess it's already split. So, it's just a display issue, I think. Could just like, yeah.
It does seem like some of these coins that have like 100 billion
Yeah.
Available, they're like frequently traded like $1.
Yeah.
You wanted it to be like premium, almost to discourage that. Like, I like that there's a small supply of NMR.
Yeah. Okay, NMR 3.0 asks, yo, Richard, bro, will you answer all these questions live?
Yes, we're doing it.
Yeah. Where did this meme come from of everyone saying, yo, Anson bro, yo, Richard bro, yo?
It was someone whose name is NMR 3.0, and they actually spammed the slider with a few other yo, Richard bro things that I just didn't add
I
because
see.
it was getting kind of silly, but it is pretty funny.
It is pretty funny. Okay.
Probably Howard Morgan.
Classic Howard. Classic Howard.
Cachorro Caramello Anarcocapitalista asks, any plans for the NMR staked custody remaining with the user? What? Any plans for the NMR staked...
Like bring your own wallet.
Oh, bring your own wallet. Oh, yeah. This is not like on the official roadmap, but it's in the roadmap in my mind. Bring your wallet is definitely coming. I mean, DeFi is coming. Ethereum is definitely maturing. But I don't want you guys to have to pay for gas just yet. I don't think you guys will like it right now to pay $100 to start staking, or to pay $50 every time you increase or decrease your stake. So, but there are kind of like Ethereum wide solutions for lowering gas, like layer 2, that I think could get us to a place where the gas fees would be low enough for bring your own wallet to be feasible. So yeah, maybe a little bit later. And also like the balancer, which is kind of like a Uniswap for multiple tokens, I guess. They have this cool thing that they did, which is like, you can, when you spend gas, like let's say you spend $100 on gas doing a transaction on Balancer, they will pay you in the BAL token equal to the amount that you spent on gas. So that's like one way that they're comping you back in gas. I like these types of ideas, but it's not in our short-term roadmap, but long-term, yes, definitely. Yeah, I think maybe I'll add one more thing here, which is like, there's a lot of stuff that we're doing off chain right now. We want to move all of those things back onto chain, because having stakes on chain and having, the Numerai stake kind of be a primitive object in the DeFi ecosystem allows it to basically be a part of the broader ecosystem, right? I think DeFi right now, if you're following it, is all about composability. like how can you take one thing from one protocol and use it in the other with like, as money building blocks. I think that's definitely a vision that we want to align ourselves to. So I think in the future, you're going to be able to, do something on Compound, do something on Numerai, mix and match it together, put it into Uniswap, and, go crazy there. So yeah, I think one thing that we need to do before we can get to that future is to put more things on chain, including the user wallets. So it's definitely in our future. What is this? Yo, Anson bro from this. I see. Yo, Anson bro, Wen stake management. Okay. Okay, anonymous. Yo, Richard bro, tell us about DataCrunch. Is it so easy to replicate? We answered that one already. If integration test 7 has 95% correlation with the metamodel, what exactly are other models providing? Can the missing 5% generate any advantage?
That's a very good question. And it's also like expected. Like if you look at a Kaggle competition or something, very quickly people get to like the benchmark or something, and say they get to 98% or something, and then the rest of the tournament is about going from 98 to 98.5 or something. So you start talking about like further and further decimal places to matter. And what's important what's nice with finance is every little bit helps quite a lot. If your fees, let's say you charge 1% per year management fee, and by using integration test, let's say we make 18% a year, but by using the stake weighted meta model, we make 20% a year. That really matters in finance because that's twice as much as our management fee. Meaning, in some ways, we could charge twice as much for management fee versus another fund that's not doing the crowdsourcing. But you do want to encourage diversity in it, and it doesn't. You can't stack models that are very correlated, and it doesn't help very much. And that's why we came up with MMC and things like that. And I think the portfolio idea could make it even stronger, this effect. But it's known to us that it was always going to be quite hard to do. You're not going to be able to do 3 or 4 times better than integration test, right? Integration test is not a bad model. It's looking at the same data you're looking at. How could you be 3 or 4 times better than it? That wasn't what we were trying to do. But we do have the benefit that the ensembling also improves Sharp. So we might go from 18 to 20%, but then the Sharp the vol is also lower. And so that also helps us in this industry. So these small changes matter in this industry. But I do want it to be not felt by you that, you know what, 96% of my earnings are to do with me being equal to integration test. And it's just the small little bit that I'm like, for you, the experience should be, you should be being paid on the part that matters to us, the extra part. So, yeah.
All right, why not score signals on the same core metric as the main tournament, i.e. non-neutralized? This seems to improve profitability in the short term until the stake cap is hit. Maybe? What do you think?
Actually, it doesn't. Neutralization is helping users, actually, on average. I was looking at this, I was kind of a little bit, I was surprised. But one of the reasons is just like, if we neutralize you by 310 features, your thing becomes very low risk because we've neutralized you so many things. And so it's much harder to have these drawdowns that kind of wipe you out. So the neutralization but it's still on my mind. If you think through the following thing, if you, let's say we're going to score you on the top bottom portfolio idea. So we're going to score you on your TB200, the idea I mentioned earlier. If we first neutralize you, then you won't even know what's in your top 200 or bottom 200, because and if you only had 400 predictions, the things that are squeezed through the neutralization, you could be the things that you predict on could be squeezed out of your top position. So I think if we do the TB thing, we might want to do no pre-neutralization, possibly.
Okay. Many models are trained on val, making diagnostics useless. Any planned solution to this from Joaquim? The solution is don't train on val.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe the other thing you're implying is, oh, can we give you diagnostics on tests? I think the answer is no. Okay. Tit BTC Cash says, do you have any plans to promote for China and EU users? From the IP analysis of Numerai Payouts, I know there are a few Numerai users from China and EU. Marketing in China and EU?
Yeah, we have sometimes marketed to those people. I think there was some time we were working with, but yeah, there's a lot of, we don't want to market to speculators. And what's nice with the Japanese users, they kind of came from the data science community of Japan. And I think we need to do something more like that for China and the EU potentially. But we're not too focused on marketing now because we're growing faster than ever, actually. And some people are finding out about us through Coinbase. Sometimes it's the most viewed token on Coinbase, and they have 14 million people on Coinbase. So there's some interesting things happening with crypto. I mean, Coinbase is IPOing tomorrow, and more people will find out about it. So I think it's nice to have organic growth. You know, so it's always a bit better.
Got a couple OG EU users out there. Shout out to all our EU users. But if you have any ins or introductions to people like the Chinese data science community, or just any data science community that you think would be interesting for us to talk to or to connect to, let me know. Send them my way. Okay. Joaquim, how cool would it be to have a Quantopian AlphaLens and Zipline backtester on the signals universe with PyFolio reports on the validation set?
Interesting. Yeah, that's a lot of quants are very familiar with that backtesting engine from Quantopian. Yeah, it's a possibility. I mean, we also, but our kind of philosophy is kind of like returns don't matter, targets matter. And so it's more important to do well on our targets than to have a good back test, because even if your back test is bad and the targets are good, we can use those in our meta model to help us. So I don't think I want to I feel like it would be devolving in some way to go to backtest land, because I don't really believe in backtests or like them. And there's a reason Numerai isn't showing you backtests. And the validation diagnostics talk about deeper things than the backtest would.
Okay. Has the metamodel test set Sharp improved with the significant growth in the number of models staked since the last Fireside Chat?
Showed you. No. But much worse. But it doesn't matter that much. The correlation is still high. And the optimizer handles a lot of the feature exposure stuff anyway. And that's what I find annoying too. It's like, if you are some of these big users staking a feature and you get very lucky, we kind of neutralize that out. with the optimizer. So it's like, we really shouldn't be paying people for something we're going to neutralize to zero. But there's a sense in which maybe we shouldn't be on zero. Maybe we should be a little bit tilted towards that feature, because that guy's staking a lot on that feature. We better trust him. Maybe we should allow for the optimizer to take that exposure on. And it does to some extent, but it's not as valuable as some kind of model with super high, consistent MMC.
What's your take on including official benchmark models on the leaderboard for both classic and signals? For example, basic submissions such as all zeros, all ones, all 0.5s, randoms, maybe single features, groups of features.
Or Numerai, both.
It says both classic and Numerai, but I get, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, random will be random. So you can predict what it will look like. But there are, but I do think some things like integration tests, I don't think that's like a good name. I've always hated that name. It should be called example predictions, and it should actually be the example predictions. And it shouldn't like miss a week of staking or whatever. So I think we should have a few more models like that, that are just called normal things, like linear example predictions, XGBoost example predictions, and we label that these are Numerai models, and just to give people some baseline. He's saying you can't rename the model. We know, but we are working on it this quarter. It is on the goals, so you should rename things soon.
I love the name integration test. So back when I joined the company, it was when I made integration test, and my goal was to try to get everyone around me to write more tests and more integration tests specifically. I mean, I'm going to take 1 minute to talk about my testing philosophy here. I think a lot of people write unit tests, which are good, but then they're tightly coupled with the way that you're structuring your software, right? And so oftentimes you don't end up testing the things that you really do need to test, which is, does the overall system work? And so my idea was, I'm going to create an account called integration test that actually tests the end-to-end system of all scoring, all submitting, all the APIs, all of staking. And yeah, I'm really happy that, everyone's using the word integration test in their vocabulary now. Like, I hope that I have encouraged every one of you guys to write more integration tests for your code, for your work, maybe even outside of Numerai. But yeah, I think for the naming of the official example model, maybe we should call it example predictions or example model, but never forget integration tests. Okay. When more slots? Okay, talked about that. When more slots again. For a company like Numerai, which has their utility token of NMR, how does the equity component work? Is the equity also fractionalized like other startups buyers?
Yeah, we are a company, so we still have equity, like a normal company. And when investors like Union Square Ventures invested in us back in 2016, that was a normal Series A into a tech company. So employees have shares and investors, just like a normal company.
Okay, NMR 3.0 asks again, what happens after payout factor reaches 0.1? Will there be a NMR 3.0? Because most of the NMR is held by either investors, company, or airdropped to OG users.
When the payout factor reaches do you want to answer that?
Sorry?
You want to answer that?
Okay. I'm not sure I understand exactly what this question is asking, but I'll try. So what happens after payout factor reaches 0.1? I think hopefully by then the tournament would have changed a lot. So we'll have new data by then. We might be on a new score There might be a new tournament structure like the
Yeah.
portfolios idea, right? So I think a lot will change, and my feeling is that a lot will change before we hit 0.1.
We could potentially not have a cap if the tournament was hot enough.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. So yesterday I was actually looking through some of my old emails and my old proposals of when I first proposed NMR 2.0. I was like, yeah, the staking cap will be set arbitrarily high at like 100K, and in practice, this is going to feel like a unlimited cap. Like we'll never hit this, is what I wrote in my proposal. But yeah, here we are now. Yeah, I think a lot will change. I think the structure of the tournament will change, and for us, we like the feeling of users feeling like there's no cap. I think that is the ideal, right? It's like there shouldn't be any of these. I guess yeah, for us, like kind of distorting how payouts and how staking and payouts work. I like free market ideology, no caps, no limits of everything. So yeah, hopefully we can get there. But this is not a promise. The staking cap is definitely here in the short term, but things will change.
it'll change a lot. I said that earlier, but I just want to emphasize, if we make the tournament so hard, like you have to beat integration tests or something like that. Or yeah, something, I think people will quit. It will be so hard that some people quit altogether and either move to signals or sell their stakes. But we have to be we don't have a choice. We have to be the correct level of hardness. Like we can't just be like, well, let's make it easier. We have to be as hard as it is. Like there is a thing you are doing, which is contributing to the metamodel. If that thing is hard, the whole thing has to be hard. Otherwise, we're kind of cheating. The unit of work is contributing to a metamodel, which is already very good. So it has to get more difficult. And that's one of the things I'm hoping to convey today is just like, please don't like panic.
Yeah.
Change something that's big. Because yes, we've said we're going to increase the cap, we're going to do these things. And one of the reasons I'm almost not worried about the cap or not worried about the employee staking stuff that much is because I know the tournament's going to change. And I know it's going to change pretty soon. And it depends on the new data. And that's coming this quarter. So remember that.
Yeah. We're definitely going to retune some of the payouts.
Yeah, that's our one promise for the day.
Yeah. Okay, Joaquim, any plan for different scoring metric penalizing higher risk models? Example would be Numerai Sharp with a standard deviation floor of say 0.01 or parentheses negative log curved. This is all you, Richard.
What was that? Say it again.
Any plans for a different scoring metric for penalizing higher risk models? For example, Numerai Sharp with a standard deviation floor of 0.01, negative log curved.
Okay, well, the thing about Sharp is it's like backward looking. That's the biggest problem with it. So what we could do is this. You stake in January 1st, you say, I'm going to stake on Numerai the entire year. And by the end of the year, I'm going to have one of the highest Sharps. That's one thing you could do. But you can't say, because let's say you already have a good Sharp, because Sharp has to be calculated on much longer than just one era. Let's say you already have a good Sharp now, and you stake more now, like you're using those previous eras and to help your calculation. So I don't see how you do it unless you do it on a forward-looking basis. We can never pay for backwards returns. It's kind of a rule. That's kind of why we don't like leaderboard bonus too. It's like you're paying for historical performance. And so the stake actually represents, I'm staking because I did well in the past. We don't want that to happen. You're going to be saying that. Your stake needs to be something about the future. But if we may have thought about these kinds of modes where it's like, look, if you stake for a year, we can pay you more or something like that, or pay you based on Sharp. But for now, it's a bit easier to stick with how we do it.
But okay, so what about, there's kind of like a question that's implied here. Like, do we necessarily want each model to be more consistent and to have lower volatility, or we just want the meta model to be consistent and have low volatility? So
Yeah.
The latter, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. Some of the signals models have help that are crazy, help a lot, and you would never want to stake on them it wouldn't be good as the primary model. So that's the other conflict here, for sure.
And I think, yeah, so in the past, we often talk about, like, okay, the payouts need to be symmetric. And I think the reason why is because we used to have like asymmetric payouts where the upside is bigger than the downside. So that like incentivized people to have higher volatility models. But then now that our payouts are symmetric, we don't necessarily want to penalize high volatility models either. We actually just want the most diverse set of models there can be, so that when we ensemble it together, the meta model will be consistent and low volatility. So just want to say that. Okay, anonymous. Michael Oliver. What changes have you made recently to NEOM, MDO, and NMRO? Their performance has clearly changed over the past 3 to 4 rounds.
I'm not sure. I think MDO said he has made changes to them, but I don't know all the details.
Yeah.
But they're not used like integration tests or something where we just run the code of what it used to be. He does make changes to them.
Okay, Joaquin, what shorter and longer term changes are planned to minimize impact from high gas prices? Okay, I'll recap. Short term, we just raise the stake change minimum amounts just to reduce the raw number of transactions. Medium term, we're trying to maybe do some off-chain optimizations, like just do less stuff on-chain when we don't have to. Internally, it will have no user impact. And then longer term is actually do real gas optimization on-chain. So that's either rewriting our contracts now or deploying them to L2. So that's the short, medium, and long-term plan. There is asymmetry between high and low vol models inherently because FN models are doing well in the magnitude of core scores is always much less than like now when high FE models are getting 0.1 or above. An FN model is never going to get that, even in its best eras for it.
That's true. That's exactly right.
Yeah. But I guess, asymmetry, what I mean is between a positive score and a low score. But yeah, there's no symmetry between high and low vol. Yeah. Okay. Anonymous, do you see NMR existing in a multi-chain environment? What are the pros and cons when L2? Okay, multi-chain environments I think are pretty interesting. I don't think it's a priority for us though, to be honest, because the application of Numerai exists on Numerai. I don't really think, like right now, like for us to exist on a different chain, I don't see like Numerai getting better because of it. I feel like Ethereum works pretty well. I mean, the gas fees are an issue, but like technical changes are moving forward, and I think the system is evolving. When you go to different chains, you have like different decentralization, security, and like performance trade-offs. And I think Ethereum is the right set of trade-offs for us in the long term, even. So, but I mean, the only The only thing that's good about existing in a multi-chain environment is like to tap into liquidity pools that are out on the other chains. So yeah, I think maybe for NMR to be existing in other chains just so that we can integrate with other DeFi protocols, I think is a good idea. But having Numerai, like the staking, the payouts of the tournaments being on other chains, probably not. When L2 soon, not soon, not this quarter, but soon. Does Numerai hold any patents to fend against copycats? Why, yes, we do. I helped draw all the diagrams in the patents. It makes me very happy. It's my one contribution.
Marcos actually wrote some of them too.
There is a piece of paper out there with Marcos's name next to mine. It makes me so happy. Okay. Do you consider erasure to be feature complete? No, definitely not. Erasure, I think, is something that we're going to have to iterate on. I mean, Ethereum is not feature complete. Like, there are EIPs coming out like every month that is fundamentally changing how Ethereum works. So I think anything built on top of Ethereum cannot be feature complete either. I mean, even all of these like somewhat stable and mature protocols out there like Compound and Uniswap, they need to keep upgrading because Ethereum itself keeps upgrading. So we're definitely on that train. I mean, just the most obvious thing is gas optimization. When we built Erasure, we're like, Ethereum was like, I think below 200, something like that. We're like trying to do some estimates and projections of like, okay, how important is gas optimization? It's like, we'll deal with it later. And here we are. Okay. Any plans to revisit the 25% payout clip per round? Should it be decreased to discourage degen behavior? Okay, an important point is high volatility models are not degen behavior necessarily, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you feel like you have cracked, I think it was Robert's Smiley, you feel like you've cracked feature timing, and that's the nature of your model, which is not how we think about the problem or how the integration test thinks about the problem or anything like that. But if that's your approach, you're going to have pretty high vol and lots of feature exposure, but you might time it really well. I don't know. That seems possible. So that's for sure not like an illegitimate model. We're not super set up to integrate that type of model because our risk controls are pretty strong on feature exposure, but nothing in the tournament suggests you can't do that.
To note, the 25% payout clip is not, we didn't put it there to penalize volatility in the first place. We put it there in order for the payout system to work because of the 4-week hold on stakes. If you can lose more than 25% per week, then like you get into negative stakes and all these different situations. So the 25 payout clip is more for the staking mechanism design, and it's much less to do with the incentive alignment. I think ideally, if we can find a way to have no cap, that would be best, so that you can build whatever type of model that you can build. But we have to maintain the 25 clip right now so that staking is safe and it doesn't go negative. Okay, with the Archegos debacle in mind, care to comment on execution/prime brokerage risks the fund faces?
We only use one prime broker, and that some people, some hedge funds have 5 prime brokers because they want to minimize their counterparty risk. But we're very small, so one is plenty for us. And from there, they wrote to us about this debacle, and they said, like, your portfolio construction is really good in this dimension. Like you aren't at risk of this kind of thing. I mean, all these blowups, it's like stupid stuff to me. I don't know, like it's like putting 30% of your fund into one stock or crazy kinds of things like that.
It's degen when your portfolio has high volatility. It's not degen
Yeah,
when your model that gets ensembled has high volatility.
yeah.
Okay. What's the retro on low signals turnout? Staked NMR. Is NMR's volatility keeping people away? A good trader could earn by speculating on NMR, so why stake and burn? I think the high level answer here is yes, signals, turnout. It's like, it's too hard. I mean, we talked about we're going to change the scoring, we're going to
But
change.
it did double. It doubled last quarter from January to
Hmm.
March. It doubled.
Yeah.
And the amount of stakers that are staking was above 0.1 or something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess it's low relative to the parabolic of the regular tournament.
yeah, so it's low in stake amounts. That's
Yeah.
because of payouts. But I'm glad it's growing.
Yeah. Is NMR's volatility keeping people away?
I don't know. I feel like, there's for any person, there's some level that they would be comfortable holding NMR. Maybe it's just 10 NMR is the most they want to do, because that represents, 0.1% of their net worth, and that's enough for them. And so I think that's just how much you should stake, like a small amount of your net worth. Now, when NMR is going up a lot and you're making a lot of money, probably that grows. But yeah, I don't think it's putting people off from like trying. I hope not. And anyone who did try, at least in the last 2 years, probably did well from being open-minded enough to this idea of staking a totally new kind of cryptocurrency.
A good trader could earn by speculating on NMR. Why stake and burn? I think if you're a better trader than you are a data scientist, then maybe you should be trading NMR instead.
Trading how though? Like, I mean, you still get your NMR when you stake.
Yeah, I mean, just I don't know, like timing the market. I don't know, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a good data scientist, then hopefully the payout system is structured in a way such that by playing you are maximizing returns. So our promise is just if you're good at data science and you're contributing to Numerai, then staking is your profit maximizing strategy. But if you don't know how to do data science, then maybe you could trade NMR. I don't know. All right. Can you please resolve rounds on Wednesdays? We are resolving rounds on Wednesdays right now. Mondays are better than Mondays are better than Fridays, but midweek trumps either one. I don't really understand this. Okay, so we resolve rounds on Wednesdays.
Maybe he's saying start rounds on Wednesday.
Mondays are better than Fridays, but midweek trumps either one. Oh, yeah. I'm not sure.
We're at like 2 hours on
Yep.
this. How are we doing? Well, how many votes are these questions?
These are like 1 vote, 0 votes. Let me just scan through them and see if there's any interesting ones. All right.
Cool.
Any plans for other non-return based targets? For example, non-reflexive targets, i.e., earnings, surprises, or analyst estimates.
Do you understand the question?
Any non-return based targets?
Oh, yeah, like something you could do is like, yeah, M&A. Did this company, have an M&A situation, and that's be a target instead of a. But I have no plans for that actually.
When Numerai Grand Master.
Soon.
Numerai ETF. I would personally hodl this for life.
Yeah, I've thought about it.
If we thought about it.
A lot of options for us. Finance has a lot of different things, going SPAC, making ETFs, making coins. A lot of
Okay, that's it. That's all we got.
I like this comment. This is the second fireside I've ever attended. I love and continue to be amazed at how openly you share your thinking and how connected you are with the community. Thank you. I feel like I found my pack.
Thank you.
All the recs I do, Anson.
Welcome to the pack. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today, especially if you guys joining live. Really appreciate you guys being here. It allows us to kind of calibrate our answers, seeing your reactions. It's super cool to see all of you guys on video. And for everyone who's watching the recording of this, also thank you for taking the time to watch, be a part of this community. Thank you so much.
One thing that didn't come up in the questions, which we don't have to talk about because it didn't come up, is the Council of Elders. Lots of discussion in that channel, and we still very much would like to do that. Whenever someone can do a power grab and decide that they are the leader, we will send you the money into a multi-sig so you can spend some of our money advancing the interests of the community, the coin, the company.
Yeah, self-organize. Get someone to write a code, get someone to schedule the meetings, get someone to rally people around, and just make it happen, and then the money will come.
Why did you delay the fireside chat from arbitrage? I was feeling kind of mopey. I don't know, I just wasn't feeling like it. But also, we hadn't finished our planning, our Q2 planning.
Yeah.
But we had nothing to say, and I was like, ugh, we have nothing to really say. We haven't thought about these issues enough. So last night I went to Anson's house. We had steaks. Looked at some of these questions. Liam was there, Mike Pugh was there, Jonathan was there, and we planned the OKRs. So we had much more to say today.
Yeah.
Then cloaks. We gotta make cloaks. Oh, see my designs.
Oh.
Wait, did I send the designs?
No. When the council forms, we will make you guys limited edition physical NFTs, physical cloaks that Richard had designed.
Wait.
No, but seriously, we need you guys to self-organize to make the council first. Someone's going to have to volunteer to do the code because it is not going to be me. Even though I said I was going to volunteer, but I'm not going to be on the council, so I can't be the one. Also, I don't want you guys to have to trust my code. I mean, you already do for the Numerai, but I think for the Council of Elders, it should be you guys writing the code and you guys trusting each other, which I think is more important. Show us the cloaks.
So we had a hackathon, and everyone was talking about what project, which person should do. And I was put on fashion design because I'm not a very good engineer. So this is one drawing I made of the cloak. So it's got a little sigil and a very satisfied data scientist. And then I feel like the bottom of it should be kind of shitty like this. So that's my cloak drawings.
Yep.
Why are you so sad? Yeah, I think he's just satisfied.
He's at peace. because he knows that his model is automatically earning him high APYs.
Yeah, he's using compute.
He uses compute so he could participate in, the council and debate.
He's fully neutralized.
Oh man, he is asking when scores. Yes, cool. All right, let's wrap it up. Thank you everyone for joining and spending so much time chatting with us. Hope to see you in the next Fireside Chat.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.